بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, my dear respected viewers, we begin our lesson in the Aqaid of Imam Nasafiyyah by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we pray that Allah make this lesson a reason our sins are forgiven and our prayers are answered, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and with goodness and in dunya, goodness in akhirah, protection in dunya, protection in akhirah. And may Allah open for us doors of understanding and bless us with iman and taqwa. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So today, inshallah, we will enter into where we have stopped. And also, I will return to the matan of Aqaid Nasafiyyah. Many of the important aspects of this book we have covered, along and with the commentary of Al-Imam Taftazani. Then we have reached the part where the author speaks about Ru'ya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani the vision of Allah, Yawm al-Qiyamah. And after this, I feel that we can go back into the matan, as many of the things are straightforward. The commentaries of Al-Imam Taftazani is as what we have known, and is quite long-winded. So inshallah ta'ala, I will just concentrate on the matan for this lesson. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us with tawfiq. And for those who are in the WhatsApp group and you have a copy of the Arabic text and also the English translation, just now I forward it to the group. So now we go back into the matan of Aqaid and Nasafiyyah. So this is where we stopped. Last lesson I spoke about irada, about the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the author mentioned wal iradatu sifatun lillahi ta'ala azaliyatun qa'imatun bidhatihi. And I mentioned this is a simple definition of irada. The complete definition is found in other books. But basically, what the author is saying that the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an attribute, sifa, azaliyah, yani pre-eternal, qa'imatun bidhatihi. It subsists within the entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically, irada is from sifat al-ma'ani. So the definition that always we speak about is sifatun azaliyatun tukhassisul mumkina. We always mention that the attribute of irada is takhsisul mumkin, that it specifies the mumkin. Tukhassisul mumkina bi ba'di ma yajuzu alayhi min ijadin wa i'damin wa makanin wa jihatin. Yani Allah specifies the existence of a creation of a mumkin. We mentioned always that the irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only related to the mumkin, just like as the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is related to the mumkin. And even the Maturidiyya, when you speak about taqween, also they mention taqween is only related to the mumkin, because only mumkin accept existence and non-existence. And as far as the wajibul wujud is concerned, wajibul wujud is already in existence, it doesn't accept non-existence. So the qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not related to the wajib nor the mustahil, and because mustahil is something that is impossible to exist. So qudra of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only relation with the mumkinat, yani the things that are contingent. Likewise the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these are some of the things that we have covered in the past. And then the author mentioned wa ru'yatullahi ta'ala. Later on, inshallah, I will show you the translation. Actually, I wanted to put side by side, but I got no time earlier. But inshallah, in the future, what I will do, inshallah, I come out in a PDF, and then every paragraph, and inshallah, I bring the English and the translation for easy, and for those who are following likewise online. But as for today, I will just read and translate. وَرُؤْيَةُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى جَائِزَةٌ فِي الْعَقْلِ وَاجِبَةٌ بِالنَّقْلِ. So this is the first thing that we are going to speak about. The author mentioned the ru'ya of Allah, yani the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yawm al-Qiyamah, that we believers, inshallah ta'ala, when we enter into Jannah, we will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason why our ulama mentioned this is because of the verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned قُلُوبٌ وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. It is because of this particular verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that faces yawm al-qiyamah, faces of the believers will be radiant, ila rabbiha nadhirah, and they will do nadhirah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nadhirah meaning they will see, it comes from the word nadhar. Nadhara meaning to see. So that is why Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah we say that we believers will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But of course when it comes to seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is it going to be the same as what we are seeing the things around us are down? This is not the same. This is not the kind of sight that we are seeing now, because what we are seeing now are things that are reflected by light. If there is no reflection of light, we will not be able to see the things because of darkness. The things that are seen by us are binded by direction. We are only seeing the things that are in front of us, on our right side or left side, but we are unable to see what is behind us. So our sight is binded by the direction in front, in front of us. Likewise, when it comes to above, we have to raise our eyes to look at what is above and what is below. So whatever that is seen by the eyes is binded by place. And we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mawjudun la fi makan, that Allah exists without a place. So when we speak about seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is a sight that is not the same as the sight that we are experiencing today. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless us with the sight that we are able to witness Him the way He wants us to witness Him, without being binded by direction, nor being binded by the reflection of any lights, or being secluded in a particular place or in a particular space. So he mentioned وَرُؤْيَةُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى جَائِزَةٌ. The first thing he said جائزة. The meaning of جائزة here, he said fil aqli. This ja is aqli. So definition of ja is aqli, we mentioned many a times, is something that can accept existence and non-existence, and meaning it is something that is possible rationally. It is something which is possible. So this is the ruling of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not something that is impossible. So when it comes to the rational laws, he said jaizatun fil aqli wajibatun bin naqli. As far as the sacred text is concerned, it is compulsory upon every believer to believe in this vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we will be able to witness and we are able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as how He wants us to see. Wajibatun bil aqli, meaning it is compulsory upon every Muslim to believe, because Allah mentioned specifically in the Quran. So the meaning of naql here is, it is narrated in the sacred text of the Quran. Likewise we have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on this meaning. And Al-Imam Nasafiyyah goes on to say وَرَدَ الدَّلِيلَ السَّمْعِي. There is also evidence which is sam'i. Evidence which is sam'i, meaning it is evidence that comes from the sacred text of revelation. So the meaning of sam'i here meaning revelation. So the evidence that comes from the Quran, the evidence that comes from the prophetic narrations, and we say this is dalil sam'i. So he said وَرَدَ الدَّلِيلُ السَّمْعِي بِإِيجَابِ رُؤْيَةِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ اللَّهِ. So it is narrated by the sacred text of the Quran and the Sunnah, that the believers will witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bi-ijab. Why? Because Allah mentioned that this will happen, and whatever that is mentioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of something that is going to happen must happen. It must happen, because it is impossible for something that is known by Allah and willed by Allah, but it does not take place, and that is impossible. So this will take place yawm al-qiyamah, is what the author mentioned, fi daril akhirah. So he said bi-ijabi ru'yatil mu'minina bi-ijabi ru'yatil mu'minina Allah ta'ala fi daril akhirati. When we will see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in akhirah. pertaining to the possibility of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mentioned this last week about Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Nabi Musa alayhi salam, he said, Rabbi arini, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anzur ilayk. Rabbi arini, anzur ilayk. Oh Allah, make me see you. So our ulama and scholars in tafsir mentioned that this is jaizatun fil aqli, as what Imam Nasafiyyah mentioned. If it is something that is impossible, Musa alayhi salam, who is a prophet, will not ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is from the possibilities. And these are some of the things I remember that last week I spoke about. So if a person tell us that it is impossible to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah, we say that Musa alayhi salam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see, but the ability to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not for human beings in this world. So what happened to Musa alayhi salam when he fainted before even seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the capacity of human beings in this life of the world is not sufficient and does not have that capacity to vision Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is something that Allah bless the mu'minin in akhirah. So he said, فَيُرَى لَا فِي مَكَانٍ. Allah is seen, not binded by makan. Makan in space. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is seen. لَا فِي مَكَانٍ وَلَا عَلَى جِهَةٍ. So Allah is seen, not him binded by a particular place, nor a particular direction. Jihah meaning direction. Because that's what we mentioned, Allah exists without a place, nor he is binded by direction. And this is the aqidah of the Salaf. Al-Imam al-Tahawi, I hope all of you have with you the book Aqidah Tahawiyah. You can buy the book Aqidah Tahawiyah, translated by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. You can buy it from Amazon, and I believe get this book. Al-Imam al-Tahawi is from the scholars of the Salaf, and he mentioned in this particular book that he mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala la tahtawihi jihatu sit kasairil mubtada'at, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not binded by the six direction, left, right, above, below, front and back, and this is called jihatu sit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not binded by the six direction. The moment we say that Allah is binded by a direction, meaning he is limited, and it is impossible that God be limited by his own creation. And of course we have dalil from the Quran and the Sunnah. I mentioned many a times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned laysa kamislihi shay. We cannot be ascribing something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which is similar to the contingencies this is dalil from the Quran. Likewise hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kan Allah wa laysa ma'ahu shay. Allah exists and nothing exists with him. So he mentioned yura la fi makanin wala ala jihatin. Allah is seen, not a sight that is binded by place, nor binded by direction. Min muqabalatin, not binded by direction, by any direction, by any possible direction. Wala ittisali shu'a'in, and not being binded by reflection of light. Because now when we speak about our sight, how are we able to see, for example, how are we able to see the things around us? We understand that it is a reflection of light. Without the presence of the reflection of light, we will not be able to see in the darkness. And for example, if you are walking in a dark alley, we will not be able to see the dark end, because we do not have any reflection of light, unless we have a torchlight with us, or unless we switch on the light, and then only we are able to see the things around us. And this is pertaining to the sight of this world. So here the author mentioned Allah is not binded by space nor direction, nor when we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not that he is binded by a particular place nor direction, and he is not binded or attached with light, attached with light, as how we see the things around us. Because all these things we mention, they are all the makhluk, and Allah is not the same as the creations. وَلَا سُبُوتَ مَسَافَةٍ بَيْنَ الرَّائِي وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ. And when we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not that Allah is in a particular place and we are in a particular place, and there is a distance between us and Allah. So here the author mentioned La subuta masafa. There is no distance. There is no distance. What is the meaning? When we normally when we say I saw something, there is a distance, correct or not? When you see something either this something is near you or is far from you. Whether it is near you or is far from you. And it can be measured by the distance. So when we speak about seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah, it is not seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having a distance between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is teaching us that everything that is related to the contingencies and to the makhluk, we have to negate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a very important principle in Aqaid Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, where Al-Imam Dhunnun al-Misri mentioned كل ما خطر في بالك فالله خلاف ذلك. I hope all of you can memorize this principle, where our ulama mention everything that comes into your mind about Allah, فالله خلاف ذلك. Allah is not like that. If anything comes into your mind that Allah is like this, فالله خلاف ذلك, that Allah is not like that. So this is how we do negation. This is how we do negation, and because our minds cannot come to understanding the reality of the entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we are created weak, and this is where Allah mentioned وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. That insan is created weak. Weak in our strength. Animals are greater than us, and weak also in our mental capacity, because everything is limited when it comes to us, and we are unable to understand things beyond our universe, for example. What about to understand the maker of the universe? We are unable to understand the reality of our soul that is in our bodies. That's what Imam Ghazali mentioned. Imam Ghazali he has a beautiful poetry about this. He said, you do not even understand the soul in your body, and the food that you eat, where it went and where it goes. Where it went and where it goes, and he speaks about that digestion. The food that you eat, and you don't know what happens to the food, and how it became what you call it, feces, and what happened to the original food and drink that you have consumed. You do not know what happened to the process of something that is inside you. Then what about to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the one who created the heavens and the earth. Meaning, if you cannot even understand your own body, how you can understand the entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the reality of the attributes of Allah. So that is why our scholars mentioned that it is impossible for human beings to understand the reality of the attributes of Allah and the entity of Allah. No one understand Allah except Allah. No one understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except Allah. What we are learning in Aqidah is basically we are learning the rulings. We are learning the rulings of the existence of Allah, the rulings of the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rulings of the entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we are not going into the reality of Allah, because nobody understands Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of His reality. So this is where he mentioned earlier. I have come into the part wala subuta masafatin bayna ra'i wa bayna Allah ta'ala. So there is no distance when it comes to this sight, because all these things are related to contingencies. Wallahu ta'ala. So now we have spoken about basically the issue of seeing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yawm al-qiyamah. So we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the ability and the capacity to view Him, to see Him as how He wants us to see. And this is something we do not possess the ability to understand the reality of the sight, but we believe, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that we will see Him. We believe, but we negate all these impossibilities when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the aqidah of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Whether we are speaking about Asha'ira, we are speaking about Maturidiyah. Before this, we spoke about some differences between the schools of thought. But when it comes to this issue, there is no difference. There is no difference between the Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now we are going to speak about the actions of human beings, af'alul ibad. Af'alul ibad. Last time, for those who have been following the Sanusiyyah, the commentary of Aqidah Sanusiyyah, Barahin, the author, we have covered quite lengthy about the issue of kasb, or the issue of af'alul ibad, the actions of human beings, and whether human beings created their own actions or created by Allah. So now we will read first, inshallah. The author mentioned, Wallahu ta'ala khaliqun li af'alil ibadi kulliha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of the actions of al-ibad. Al-ibad, basically here, his servants and human beings. Kulliha, all of them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of all of the actions of human beings. And then he elaborated. He said, Minal kufri wal imani wal ta'ati wal isyani. Whether it is disbelief, belief, and iman, ta'ah, actions of obedience and worship, wal isyan, actions of disobedience and like committing sins. So here the author is telling us all of the actions of human beings without any exception, whether it is something that is good or bad, everything is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning human beings have no ability to create their own action, their own action. So now we are going to explain, because if you look at the text of Aqaid and Nasafiyyah, it is very brief, correct or not? It is very brief. But if you look at the commentaries of Barahin, for example, you will find quite a lengthy explanation. So let me explain this term where we speak about the actions of human beings. The dalil is the Quran. When we say, for example, Allah created all of our actions. What is the dalil? Dalil is the Quran. First and foremost, in Surah Hud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, Khalaqakum wa ma ta'malun, that Allah created you and what you do. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only He brought you into existence, but also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created your actions. This is what the Quran is saying. So when we say that Allah is the one who created our actions, so what does it mean? So now for example, when we see a human being, when we see a person, and even when we look at ourselves, we are able to move, we are able to perform certain actions. So we must understand that we do not have the ability to do so, except that when we intend a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created in us this ability, where this ability has a relation with His creation of that action. So the relationship or the relation between the ability that is created by Allah in us and the action that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what we meant the term al-kasbu. Al-kasbu. We say that human beings, the actions of human beings, in this situation, we name it as al-kasb. This is kasb. But the action itself, it is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the action is ascribed to us. Why it is ascribed to us? Because we intended to do that particular action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it. So we are accountable and we are responsible for all of the actions that came out from us, because actions is a mirror or is a reflection of our intention. Action is a reflection of our intention. So that is why we say that human beings, whether you do something that is good or something that is bad, whether you are obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are doing any actions and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of these actions are ascribed to you. because you are the one who intended that particular action, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the ability to make that choice. So this is basically, we say that Allah is the creator of our actions, but at the same time we say we are not forced. That we are not forced. It doesn't mean that our ulama when they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your own actions, meaning you are like a robot, that you don't have any accountability of that action, that you are forced. That is the idea of the Jabriya. There is a sect in Islam that believe that human beings is just like robot, in a sense that every actions of human beings are created by Allah. Not only they are created by Allah, but they are forced. But here the Ahlul Sunnah is saying, yes, our creations are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are not forced. How? Because Allah gave us this ability to make a choice. Human beings have the ability to choose between kufr and iman. It's what Imam Nasafiyyah mentioned. Min al-kufri wal-imani wa-ta'ati wal-isyani. Human beings have the ability to choose whether he wants to believe or he doesn't want to believe, whether he wants to obey or he doesn't want to obey. So at the point where human beings make the decision to perform a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that action in him. When it comes to kasab, as what I mentioned earlier, the explanation of the Ahlul Sunnah is that the meaning of kasab, of human beings, the actions human beings that is ascribed to human beings, this is the relation between the ability that is created by Allah in us and the relation with the created action. So this relation we call it kasab. So when it comes to kasab, we say that human beings are responsible for his actions, but at the same time we are saying that human beings do not create his actions. Allah is the one who creates his actions. And this is, of course, there is a difference between us and the Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazila they say that human beings are the ones who create their own actions. And this is one of the biggest difference between us and the Mu'tazila. They speak about deposited power. If you remember last time, we mentioned many a times, even in Kharid Bahiyya, the Mu'tazila they speak about quwwatul muda'ah. Al-Imam Ahmad Dardir mentioned waman yaqul بالطبع أو العلة فذاك كفر عند أهل الملة ومن يقل بالقوة المودعة فذاك بدعي فلا تلتفتي. Those who speaks about the deposited power that human beings are created by Allah, and Allah deposited this power in human beings, that human beings can do whatever he wants from that power, and this is bid'iyun fala taltafiti. This is a bid'ah in aqidah. The later Ash'ari scholars mentioned that this is an innovation in aqidah, but the earlier some of the earlier Ash'ari mentioned this is kufr. This is an act of disbelief, because by saying that you are able to create your own actions, meaning you are able to bring about something into existence against the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As though the Mu'tazila they are saying that you can create ma'siyah, human beings create the action of drinking liquor, for example. Human being created this action of drinking liquor, and this action that is created by human beings is something that is not willed by Allah. Because Allah doesn't want bad things for human beings. This is the understanding of the Mu'tazila. So that is why it became a very serious issue. Some of you might be saying, but nowadays you don't have people claiming they are Mu'tazila. Yes, but the understanding is still in what you call in the hearts of some Muslims who doesn't learn this knowledge. So there are people who does what you call it sin. There's people who does sin and he feels that he is able to do something against what Allah wills. He's questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He say, oh Allah, if you say this is haram, then how come I can do it? So he perceive that he's able to bring something into existence against what Allah has willed, and this is the ignorance of some people. Some people they believe in the Aqaid of Jabriya. And they say that whatever I do, I am forced by Allah. Since my actions are all the creations of Allah, then meaning yani whatever yani I do, it is not from me, but it is from Allah. So you might find him drinking liquor, na'uzubillah min zalik, and committing zina. When he was asked, why are you doing this? He said, I got no choice. I got no choice. Allah is the one who has ordained. There are people who blame qada and qadar out of ignorance. There are people who blame that all these things happens by the power of Allah, that human beings do not have any choices. So all these ideologies are still present in our society. So that is why when we study this knowledge, so we have to be aware, and we have to educate people to tell them what is the correct belief in Islam according to the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because all these things are slippages. Our ulama mentioned these as slippages. If a person is not careful, it brings him towards kufr to Allah, brings him towards disbelief, or lesser than that, and it brings him toward al-bid'ah, an innovation in aqidah, and it becomes the reason that his actions his ibadah will not be accepted by Allah, because Allah only accepts ibadah based on sound aqidah, the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, which we always pray to Allah, that Allah always bless us with the guidance and tawfiq. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So then he mentioned وَهِيَ كُلُّهَا بِإِرَادَتِهِ وَمَشِيئَتِهِ وَحُكْمِهِ وَقَضِيَّتِهِ وَتَقْدِيرِهِ. He say all of these actions of human beings, all of those actions happens by the will of Allah. وَمَشِيئَتِهِ, Mashi'ah is the same as irada. وَحُكْمِهِ, and his ruling, and his qadiyah, his decree, his qada, the decree of Allah. Allah has ordained everything that happen must happen according to the will of Allah, according to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَقْدِيرِهِ, and it happens by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is the one who brought it into existence. And then the author mentioned وَلِلْعِبَادِ أَفْعَالٌ اِخْتِيَارِيَّةٌ. Now next week inshallah we will speak about af'al ikhtiyariyah. This requires some explanation. I will stop here inshallah ta'ala. But basically the important things that I have covered. Next week we will speak about the choice of human beings. When we speak about human beings are not forced, as what I mentioned earlier, that yes, we say Allah created our actions, but yet we are not forced by Allah. So what is the meaning of this choice? This is where Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is going to speak about. I mentioned the gist of it earlier, but inshallah next week inshallah I will elaborate on it before we go on to the next part. So this is the matan of Aqaid and Nasafiyyah. Before this always we go back to Al-Imam At-Taftazani, because I feel that all these things that we are covering now are simple. It's not something that is complicated. So I just want to make it simple. Inshallah, we go back into the text whenever what you call it is appropriate and proper for everyone, so that inshallah becomes easy for us to understand in simple terms. والله أعلم بالصواب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.